live, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. We stream on our website, maad975.com. No www, just maad, M-A-A-D 975.com, as well as online, where you find us in every platform. You can look for us on the share. In studio this afternoon, as promised, we have former Minister of Education, who is an opposition member of Parliament presently, and attorney at law, Mrs. Priya Manik-Chan. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show, and how are you doing?
Hi, Michael. Malcolm, good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here. I love this studio.
Yeah, thanks. I like the hairstyle, man. The bouncing. You did it yourself?
Yeah. This is natural.
I see
we're not on TV.
I see you rolling. We on the internet, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I see you rolling.
I'm very curly hair.
I see. Yes, I can see. I see you rolling alone these days. You just like
alone?
Yes, like you. No security, nothing. You're just out there like
I never really had security. I had people. I never had security. What I had was a driver, and it's necessary sometimes. So I've been driving since I was about 15. I like doing stuff myself. The thing is, when you're in office, you kind of need that support, because you don't have to go park and walk back to your event. Drivers could do other things while you're at an event and so on. So yeah.
How the family?
They're great. My kids just finished test today, and so I feel relieved. Every test week I get hoarse because I'm screaming at them to go and do your work.
Is it a challenge to
get them to do work? Of course.
How do you deal with it?
I just told you I scream.
How you discipline? You take away gadgets, take away things that they like?
I don't beat.
Okay.
It's a challenge, but I don't beat, and I don't believe beating works. I take away gadgets. Things they like. So whatever storybook you're reading, if you're not going to do what you have to do,
then you remove it.
It's going on a high shelf. You lose your iPad for the week. Stuff like that.
Block
that
the
could
internet,
make them,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But do you feel that you still feel away because you do that, even though you know you have to do it?
No, I don't feel bad for. I don't discipline a lot. I think they're still small. So I mean, there are consequences. They have to know that for every action there are consequences and so on. But I try to talk. Here, this is what's going to happen if you don't do this now. So go do it.
Okay, then.
And then a little bit louder, go do it. And then like a mad woman, go and do it. And they understand.
And then if they listen to one, giving the next tone like hero.
Yeah. Right, so they understand the mad tone.
They understand.
They haven't reached though. But with my mother, she used to give us a look. You ain't even sure what you're doing wrong, but it's freeze. You don't breathe nothing. They don't get that part. They don't understand the look.
They don't.
No. Why are you looking at me like that? Yeah.
The message is lost there. And so what have you been up to recently?
Well, the country is in a turmoil waiting for us to settle down politically. I really don't think this is healthy. I mean, that sounds so cliche. But now that we've lived through these 3 months, you see how necessary it is for political stability. And I'm not saying political agreement. They must always have opposing parties and so on. I'm talking about political stability. Just to be stable, to know that there is a government who is properly there and that there is an opposition, and then hear views on both sides. By the way, congratulations on this new channel. I'm happy it's up and running.
Thank you very much.
Views.
Thank you.
On this.
Thank you very much. This show is to create a safe, healthy place where we can have honest, open discussions.
Right.
I know we've spoken many times on radio before.
Yes.
And we do understand, and I must say thanks for coming. You had them rowing, albeit a little late,
Yeah, I think I hit every red light.
I didn't see anything though. But a new presidential candidate for the party.
Yes.
What is your take on it? What was your position during the whole process?
Well, I'm not an actual card-carrying member of the PPP. I never joined. And that's the beauty of that political party. You don't actually have to be a member to be supportive of their policies. And so when I started looking at them as a possible option, I was 17, barely able to vote. We had elections coming around the corner, the 97 elections. And I'd gone to some PNC rallies, meetings, and there would be rallies and some PPP rallies to see who I wanted to vote for. And this was the party, the PPP Civic, that had, for me, the most sensible policies: pro-poor, pro-development, development with a view to looking after poor people, bringing everybody up to a certain standard. And so I started paying more attention, but I never joined the party.
In 1997, a lot of political heat was on here in Guyana.
Yes,
if I remember clearly.
Yes. 97 is when we had, people boring dolls on the road. That's after the election. They had Obia people and so on the road trying to get Janet Jagan out of office.
This was during the time of the flinging of the document and all of that.
Yes, this is just that same time. Yes.
Yeah. As a young person, then you got into the party. What was your first impression?
No, I didn't get into the party. I just started volunteering, and then I went back to work when the elections were over, and then I'd volunteer again and go back to work again when the elections are over. My impressions then, it was really a party I felt passionately about. The policies were policies I felt passionately about. I don't know that I agreed then or even now with everything that as a political party we espouse. But that's also healthy. You get 440 views and 400 views, and you listen to them all and then come up with what's the best one. And I'm sometimes in the minority in some of those views, and that's fine. Sometimes my view is actually represented out there.
What happens when it's in the minority?
Well,
You go with
when it's in the minority, you go with, unless it's really for me out of the.
But we haven't seen any of those, Mrs. Manichan, as yet.
Really? You didn't
give
see
me
ever saying that something shouldn't happen when it happened? I can't remember examples.
I'm not saying you didn't, eh?
Malcolm, you haven't been reading.
It's so much to read.
I got into so much trouble for saying things I shouldn't have said, but that I felt strongly about different things.
Give me one example now. That's something that you don't agree with. You don't have to bash anybody
I don't agree with.
from your own party.
There's nothing really. I mean, there are very many views that come out now. For example, people feel we should be more aggressive in dealing with. I don't hold that view, but I'm just telling you that there are people in the party or people who support the party who believe we should be more aggressive, and that if we get aggressive and we get on the streets, that then this government is going to sit up and pay attention. I don't hold that view, but I'm saying they
Why
are.
not?
Why? Because I think we will hurt businesses more than they're hurting right now. We'll frighten people, and that's not us. That's not us. That'll turn me off the PNC completely. You can't be going on Regent. When I started working, my office was literally on Regent Street. It was actually in Kemraj Ramjatan's office. I started working with him, and you'd literally have to bolt if you're coming back from court and the PNC crowd is coming up the road.
I mean to just label an entire crowd the PNC crowd, that would be a disservice. And as an attorney,
I agree that there were good people in that crowd who were protesting, but that is the problem with running on the road.
There are also reports of out there, Mrs. Manichan, of infiltrators.
Miss Manichan, but yeah, go on. I'm married, but I haven't changed.
I was asking you if you're gonna hyphenate and give me the last name because you're using the Mrs.
No, my husband is Morley, but no, I don't plan to hyphenate. This is who I am, and I think it's fine with people who do. I think we live in a really good time where you get to choose now. You
made this choice.
Yes. I made this choice.
There are reports they circulate of imposters, persons who antagonize, being from the opposition, well, the government at that time being the PPP, infiltrating these peaceful protests and causing problem. And then it's then blamed on.
And that's why all the suspicion came about. I don't believe that. We had only last week, we had a protest that had, if not 1,000 more persons in front of OP the night before, the day before. The nation was warned by very senior members of the present government, including, I believe, the security minister, what's he called? Public security minister, that the PPP would put people who are dressed in green and we would disrupt the nation and we would beat people up and assault them and so on. None of that happened. We had a peaceful protest.
Isn't it fair to say that now, long ago, the police used to be itching almost to get into it with the protesters? Your government that was in your party that was in power even bought a water cannon for
Yeah.
$40 million to disperse crowds.
Right.
We see crowds being treated differently now.
But the crowds are also, listen, we have to be fair. The police haven't changed. So let's remember that. The police has a job to do, and I'm very partial to the police, perhaps because my own I have a lot of family members who are in the force, and my husband himself is from the army. So I know they have a job to do, and they don't get to question what their job is. The crowds, first of all, the PPP hasn't been on the street, so we haven't been a disruptive crowd on the street where you can compare how police have treated us and police have treated.
Well, I've
crowds.
seen protests from inside outside. I've seen protests from then. I've seen it now, and I can tell you without reservation that the police approach to people on the road now is far different. The police shot at politicians on the road. James Bond and others bear witness to the police firing live rounds upon protesters on the road. Is it how it's happening now, how it should be? You should be allowed to protest?
Well, you should be allowed to protest.
Peacefully, right?
There has to be in any democracy space for peaceful protest. But peaceful is the operative word. You can't run up to the police. There is video now of what happened at Agricola when the police came out in their riot gear, and I believe the non-functioning water cannon turned up. And that was nothing peaceful. Nothing was peaceful about that. I could tell you, someone who was working with me in a domestic capacity, her daughter got her brassiere ripped off her.
Now that's terrible.
Of course it's terrible, and that's what I'm saying. You can't protest. If you're going to host a protest, you also have the responsibility to make sure that tires aren't burnt. Well, it depends on what kind of protest you want. That people aren't assaulted, that people aren't
I remember
beaten,
tires
and
being
so on
burnt
and
in a PPP stronghold heading to Borbees there. And there was a different reaction to those protesters as opposed to tires being burnt other places. And we're calling it as it is here. I remember vividly, you understand, that to even these communities, would you agree that these communities had persons who were under pressure, perceived or real, that the government of the day wasn't in their favor, right? And this caused lots of friction. There was a jailbreak, and there was persons on the street creating havoc. All of this was happening in the country, and all of this tied into, then there was political alignment, then there was political commitment, then there was political calling for change, and so it was like a big cook-up of craziness that was happening.
But we have to separate it out too. Like I said, if anyone ever tried to shut down a protest, I think my voice would be the loudest you would hear, even if that protest was not something I agreed with. The position of protesting, the issue of allowing people to protest, do you
believe there are persons up there, be it politicians or in the police force, that at least should apologized for the way that they've treated persons in the past?
I think you need a full inquiry into something like that, because you have to remember at that time also we had politicians meeting with some of these jailbreak people. There is that in the police intelligence report. That's why you won't see any of those inquiries happening. You had people openly calling people who were holding entire communities to ransom freedom fighters. So when you saw a community being targeted, or a community that people were terrified of, let's say community X on the East Coast, it wasn't the whole community that had a problem with the government, with the people passing on the road, with anybody. It was 5 or 6 men with a lot of guns who were supported by politicians and others who hijacked that community
and then
made it their safe haven.
We also saw a convicted man from Guyana who's convicted in the U.S. for drug trafficking take out ads in the newspaper claiming that he worked hand in hand in fighting crime with the government of the day at that time, and also he paid the salaries of teachers and others using his money. Those ads were in the newspapers. I
don't remember to pay the salaries, but first of all, when those ads went into newspapers, he wasn't convicted of anything here or in the U.S. And secondly, when he put those ads in the papers, we also have to remember that he said he was Felix's best friend. In fact, I understand they had deeper relations that might have had other things.
And as an attorney, that's speculation.
No,
there.
no. no. That was in the ad. You can't use part of the ad. That's not speculation. If we are talking about the Roger Can ads, Roger Can said that he and Felix had a special relationship, and Felix at the time was the Commissioner of Police. And indeed, you would recall that
on the PPP administration at that time.
Yes, because we never really bothered, as it should be. This was the person qualified to be the Commissioner of Police, and that was who was the Commissioner of Police. You didn't see manipulations like you're seeing now, and that's not. I like this Commissioner of Police, so let's be very clear about that. But
I would have to ask.
No, but let me finish this. We're talking about
I would have to
an
ask
ad.
about that part of manipulation and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
We
We'll
intend
talk
to have
about
some
that.
of them. Not you.
We'll talk about that just
for
now.
the persons that you named. Yeah, go
No,
right
no,
ahead.
I could tell you, but you asked me about a particular thing. If we're talking about the advertisement that Roger Can put out, first of all, he was a citizen. He could put out whatever ad he wants.
But he called the whole government into question, and you were just singling out this other aspect
I wasn't
of
in
it.
the government then. I was just
I know.
a citizen. But I am saying that what he said is that the Commissioner of Police was in cahoots with him, and that they had a falling out, and that because he wasn't doing what the Commissioner wanted, the Commissioner was now after him. He's entitled to put an ad like that in the papers in his own
He
protection.
put that he was working
but
in
hold on a
collaboration
second.
with the government of the time.
Yeah, but he could put that. I think the government of the time denied it.
Well, he could
also-
put something about the other person as well.
They didn't deny it though, and there were audio tapes of the commissioner doing things like saying
about a breakfast conversation. I remember clearly.
What breakfast
One
conversation?
tape being released.
No, I remember at that time the commissioner saying.
But that wasn't
remember?
that wasn't
We had to say
verified. That tape wasn't verified.
One MP. Well,
Was it? It wasn't verified. So it is out there.
It's
You
out
understand?
there for the Guyanese people to decide
enough.
if they know the voice of the MP that was on the phone or that was allegedly recorded, and if they know the voice of the commissioner. It would be the people who had to decide that. You would recall that. Let me tell you, for a period, I've said this to the commissioner already, because now that we're MPs, I actually like him. But
The present commissioner?
no, I haven't met the present commissioner properly, but I have watched his press conferences, and I really like him. I hate to have him as a witness in the box. He's always the press corps seems frustrated. He doesn't give them the answers they want, but he seems to be sensible and intelligent and a professional police. Now, I've said that if there's any time that I need to criticize him, I will. But I feel that about him right now. I thought his release the other day was a little questionable, and I was about to write something on it, and then the time passed.
Or you didn't feel like writing anymore because you know that wasn't the aim.
No. His release was, the release had something to do. I saw it late. For Lent, I'm off Facebook, so that's the stream of information right now. But he was suggesting that he doesn't understand why the PPP had planned a protest, that the matter was still in the court or something. That's not his business, frankly. That's not.
Well, the article that I saw stated that the police will deal with, according to the law, anyone who tries to break the law.
And the police should. And the police should.
Isn't it great to go out and protest now and not have the police look at to shoot you?
Well, if there were people who were, I don't want to say inviting shots onto themselves, but I'm saying if any one of the people that day, because I was on the road that day, was going up to the police face and pointing to their face.
This
and
actually happened
backballing
more than
on the police
more
and
than one
stuff,
time.
I would have said deal with them accordingly. You're not allowed to treat our policemen like that, right? So I think we have to be fair. Were there excesses? You're dealing with human beings. So when people have to face that on the spot at the time, there may be, when you're looking at it back again. But
there are
you don't
times
know
when the police were identified as the aggressors and persons were of the view, albeit maybe a perception may not be true, that it was under the direction of the government of the day that allowed the police to behave in the manner. I grew up in Alboystown. I can tell you there's been a change in the attitude of the police that I have encountered. The police used to be bad and bullyish on the road. This is no joke, Miss Manik-chan. I can tell you that from my personal experience.
Policemen and women are human beings. And so wherever you have a collection of people, you'll have delinquents among them. I wouldn't paint the whole police force as
No one is
bad,
painting
though,
the whole
right?
police force.
And like I said, if anybody listening to you is curious about when the police reacted, and that's not to say that there was never a time. The police, there have been judgments in the court against the police across governments throughout the history of this country. People have been charged, people have been locked up for shooting and not having police justification or whatever justifies the police shooting and so on. And people have been jailed for that. And then there have been civil judgments, money judgments, where the police did things they shouldn't have done under the PPP, under this government, under everybody. Because police force is made up of people, human beings.
Are you saying there was no
beings.
direction or manipulation in any aspect that you know of the police force back
Well, you know,
in those days?
I wasn't
when
directly.
you from when you came.
I
when
can
you
tell
came
you,
in?
I wasn't directly in charge of the police force, but I do know that the law does not allow any minister to direct the police force to do anything. Now, who were the police commissioners under the PPP? One of them is presently sitting in the National Assembly as the immigration. Well, he's an MP. That's being challenged, by the way. He shouldn't be there. But that's Winston Felix. He was a commissioner under the PPP. Who were, if you say the PPP instructed these guys, most of the former GDF men are presently very much involved in this present government. So I don't know that maybe we've evolved, but I'm also saying that we cannot ignore what they were confronted with. Nobody did any of that on Friday.
Many Guyanese lost their lives at the hands of bandits, police, warring amongst themselves and all that. Hundreds have enlisted. Do you believe we need a real inquiry into what really took place in our recent history? Of course, and
we've called for it. We've called for it. I think we do.
Is that genuine?
I think, no. I mean,
because the party was right there that could have done it at that moment. It
right.
happened during
Except
the tenure of the
does,
PPP Civic.
The party never had an inquiry into most things. They had begun with the Walter Rodney inquiry. This government has had, I don't know, maybe 40 since they went in, but they refused to touch that period. Aren't you curious as to why?
Well, when I get them, I'll ask them, but that's why I have to ask you.
I am curious as to why. The interpersonal deaths really, really worry me. They frighten me. Today I was being told that the girl, she's 20 or 21, whose husband ran her over and then just came out and chopped her up. She was apparently buried recently, within the last couple of days. And her baby, a 7-month-old, was reaching for her in the coffin and so on. Those kinds of, we're not dealing with that properly. I've seen almost no programs in place recently to address it. The government alone, no government alone could address issues like that, but governments have to lead in that, and that worries me.
This has been a recurrent problem.
Been a recurring problem,
Guyana.
but there have been.
What would you suggest?
We education to begin with. Our laws are pretty strong, but laws will be something on paper except we start teaching people about it, or children. So it should be every single child should come out of school knowing what domestic violence is, male and female, what avenues for help there are, how to recognize the signs, how to get out of those relationships. You know, I think we have a more enlightened population, but it's not proportionate. The reduction in domestic violence
more is highlighted these days, you believe, than long ago in terms of the occurrences and
without a doubt.
times?
Look, in our grandparents' time, a grandfather beating his wife up wasn't even a crime. It became a crime. Domestic violence was passed, the law about domestic violence, that is, the law treating with domestic violence, was passed in 1996. So prior to 1996, this country didn't see a man slapping his wife as a problem. This country didn't think a man beating up his wife and so on was a problem. Up to 2010, if a man raped his wife, threw her on the ground, took off her clothes and did what he wanted to do with her, it wasn't a crime. We made it a crime in 2010. So I'm saying we're still new, but laws have to laws
You
reflect
did work on a bill.
sex
on
offences bill.
Yes,
Yeah.
you did. I remember. And there was the descriptions of if you peep at somebody and you shouldn't be
funny.
peeping and they see you and you can be charged and go to jail for quite a long time. Do you
Yeah,
believe?
anything that's not consensual. If you
Yes.
want to be peeped at and you invite somebody to peep at you,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, that's fine. But if that's your thing, but you can't be voyeurism. You can't be putting cameras in places where you can see people. Teachers can be interfering with children, or coaches and so on. Men can just rape women or take sex when they feel like from them. They have to have implied consent, even if you're married, right? So I'm just trying to say that laws reflect our learning or understanding, a society's understanding of what's right and wrong. But then we still have to go back and educate people who've already grown up in a place where they didn't think that was wrong.
Is there anything that happened during your time as Minister of what is now Social Protection as well as Education? Is there anything that happened during that time that you believe that you didn't handle properly, in a way that you should have? Is there anything you regret doing in a manner in which you did?
Yeah, my motto is not to regret something, but to learn from it. Yes.
What did you learn from them?
Some of the things we didn't PR properly. Look, when I went into the Ministry of Human Services, I was 30, and I had no interest in politics. Well, let me change that. I had no interest in being a political leader. I think everybody should be interested in politics because it simply means policy that will affect your own life. And so you should be interested in who leads and what their proposals for your life would be and so on. But I was young, and the government system, we had such a crappy PR system that not very different from
What was
this
the
one.
year?
That was 2006. So some of the things
You're
we
lashing back
didn't-
at yourself when you're comparing. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
some of the
Go
things
ahead.
didn't get answered properly. So some of the work that we had done, some things we didn't get out there properly. My own view was not to press it up so much, but that if our work was impacting on people's lives, then they would know that we're working, and that's enough. But that's not all. That's not always the case, right? Yeah, there are a couple of things I would have done differently, for sure.
2014.
2014 was 2014. Wow.
You've done so much. I gotta remind you what you've done. Actually,
Yeah.
the feral blast.
Yeah.
Would you do that again? But before you answer, let me put it into proper context for you. Given how you've probably matured now, would
Yeah.
you do that again?
So that's a very interesting question. First of all, it is almost incumbent upon people who want to learn about that period or that incident and that event to go and hear what I said. Pieces of it are on YouTube, and you should go and hear what I said, and you should hear the tone that was used. There was no blasting. There was nothing undignified. In fact, my voice was steady and measured, and had to be a little bit louder than normal because the people there, they had about 200 people started heckling. Yes. But my
But
tone
according to
didn't
reports,
change.
the
I
heckling
know,
started when you said something.
Yeah, the heckling started because people you'd be amazed at how
Do you believe you handle it as best as you could, or you handle it exactly the way you would handle it now?
I believe that perhaps, and I think
If
it's
it falls short of an apology, I don't mind.
no,
or
there's
a
no
regret,
apo-
or
no,
a
no, no,
regret,
No, no,
or a
okay, so let's
regret.
be very clear about this because this is you said, this is live. This is going to live forever. What I was complaining about is on CNN every single night right now, where the entire Congress and the country is complaining about that. We were complaining about possible interference into sovereign issues. And that is what America is dealing with right now. In fact, let me see if I can find it. I have a quote here that while it was playing on CNN, I thought, whoa, look, this is so apt. And I quickly wrote it down. Let me finish, Malcolm. The names given to it, which was the feral blasting, that was Dr. Luncheon in his
description.
Usual, yes.
His description of your
In
words.
his usual luncheon-esque way, said that. But it's interesting. People should go and see what I said. And really what I said was nothing different from what people are saying right now regarding what they believe is interference.
Did Dr.
in the
Luncheon
US
classify
government.
it incorrectly then? To say it was a feral blast?
It wasn't a feral blast. It was a very firm objection to something that we
So,
had.
Ambassador's Brent Hart's call for local government elections.
It wasn't only the call for local government elections. That's why I'm saying you have
That was
to
a
go
part
back
of
in
it.
the period. I really should write on it because, and again, that the
You got the
PR
video?
of that. No, that's the whole thing. The PR of it was so bad. I mean, there was nobody on my side. So what you had was people who were very quick to say we don't like what she said, and that's their right, and then put their own spin on what I said. And there was nobody in the government's entire PR system that said, but hold on a second here. Here is what she really said. This is the video. These are the words.
Did they let you down there?
I don't think they let me down. I think they just didn't know how to do their work. I don't think it was an anti-Priya position. I think it was, I think they were just...
Here comes the attorney at law right there. You know, I'm not a judge.
If I felt it was anti-Priya, I would have
So
told
my
you.
basic question is...
Is there something that I would have done differently? You asked me that.
Yes, that's the question.
Listen, I believe that we serve people, and we must hear what people said, what people say, and how people view what we do. And there were enough people who felt that that what I said was not necessarily wrong, and in fact it might have been right, but that I should not have said it at that venue.
It was in bad taste to say it there.
I heard that, I have heard that, and if I had to do it again, perhaps I wouldn't do it at that venue.
Oh, fair enough.
There is a reason for that, though, and that's what I'm saying. You had to take the whole...
At the man house on the man country board there almost.
Well, the man didn't really care when he was saying that.
He was leaving 2 days after in July 6th,
in our
right?
house at our birthday. But
now we
the
hear
problem, the issue was, let's be very clear. The issue, the reason we went there, and it was not only about interference, about our electoral processes. This was an ambassador who had said about our president that he was unconstitutional, had said about our a political party's general secretary, that very unkind things. Let me say this now. If an ambassador in this country, I am allowed to say President Granger is unfit, he shouldn't be ruling, he should come out of place. I am allowed to say that. I'm a citizen. If any ambassador comes here and says that, I would object to it.
But we've seen recently the different missions here in Guyana releasing statements to the effect of we should go with what we should go with. Isn't that just about the same thing? And then we see the party that you're a part of pointing to those statements and saying, look what they're saying.
Yeah.
That deserve a feral blast in your opinion.
Well, no, not the same thing. Nobody has said that the president is unconstitutional. No ambassador has said that. In this case, he actually is.
No, he's not.
Failed. Well,
no, they're not.
Until the ruling of the 21st
as
of
it
March.
stands now, the government is legitimate. As the appeal court is ruled.
As it stands
Come on.
right now, the government is fully legitimate.
Yes,
I am saying to you,
yes.
until the appeal court ruled on the 21st of March, there was a judgment from the 31st of January that said the government was resigned.
Into February.
No. The 31st of January, the Chief Justice of this country said
Made a ruling, right?
that on the 21st of December, the government was automatically resigned. Right?
I don't believe she said that.
That's what she said.
When the Constitution clearly shows that is you don't have to resign until the swearing in of another president.
She said that. That's what she said. So there's no dispute about that. She said that. It's in writing. It's a judgment. Just Google it. That's
but the 90 days weren't up as yet.
No, she said they were automatically resigned, and their purpose for being in government was to call the elections that they had to call within 90 days.
Yeah, and now the appeal court has ruled, so we're at that stage, right?
Now the court appeal has ruled. The Court of Appeal has ruled, and we are
heading to the CCJ now,
right? And the CCJ is going to hear this matter on the 10th.
As an attorney, how will you view all of these points that are being raised and challenged right now?
I think the issue, well, I have great respect for all the courts, whether they're right or wrong. I have respect for them. These are people who serve. But the courts, there are courts that are wrong, and I believe the Court of Appeal is wrong. Strongly hold that view. But forget what the courts have said. My own concern is with our... we had leaders in this country on both sides of the divide or all three sides, if you want to count the AFC. I count them as part of the other side. They're not separate anymore. They're part of a coalition. So on both sides of the House, you have people who said in 2014 and throughout the budget debates of 2018 that 33 would be a majority. And then the night of the no confidence vote, the now very famous no confidence vote, said this is how democracies work. We don't be upset. The next day, President Granger said there's no cause for alarm. We will go to an election. We'll do what's right. And then comes back and says, well, hold on. Well, we don't really think 33 is a majority in 65. We think it's 34. Now, the whole of Guyana thinks that's a little bit of odd maths. Many people in Guyana, most people in Guyana, I think it would be fair, thinks that 33 is a majority of 65. You were on the ground far more than me. Amongst ordinary people.
I know it needs clearing up. A lot of people confused what was really happening.
No, but and I think we're getting the clear up. But I'm saying to you that the duplicity, that's what I'm talking about. You up to 2 days later, you were saying this is what is right. You appointed this man that you knew everybody knew Karen Das was a dual citizen.
Is it illegal to go to the courts to clear up matters that you don't have a
No,
final
it's not illegal.
on?
But let's not talk. That's why I said hold on the court for a minute. The court is going to deal with this. I am just saying I am a bit concerned that you could say for all this time, from 2014 to now, because they filed a no confidence motion too, to now, up to the night of the debate, saying, well, you think you're going to get 33, but you're going to get it. We got it. We got the majority.
Did you know that an extra vote was coming your side of the bench?
I knew people are upset, particularly backbenchers. I knew that they're not only Charandas. So if you think it's only Charandas, you're
so tell us
very,
what you know
very
then.
Mistaken. And the
you think there were
who,
others who were going to vote against the government?
I don't know. I think that many people were upset that look, these people went to the electorate, these parliamentarians, and they made some serious promises, and then none of those were fulfilled. They have to answer those people on the ground, and so people were sounding their displeasure, and I knew about some of those.
Is this a warning as for 2015 repeating itself sometime in the future, as for listening to the people on the ground and knowing what the people want and being able to be voted back into power?
Oh, Malcolm, I have always, my guiding thing.
If I may ask you, sorry for interrupting you. Sorry for Did you believe the PPP was a little cocky in 2015 going into the elections?
Yes.
Why would that
not cocky. I think, well, cocky wouldn't be a bad word to use, but I think we have to take it in context. I think we'd been in office long, and I think some people got complacent. Let's be frank about that. And some people felt, some people were arrogant. Some people spoke to people very badly. Some people
believe it was a given. It was a given. It was going to happen.
I think, and it's not only the cabinet members. So let's understand that it's local leaders also.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Not parliament
regional
only.
Leaders and so on that were treating people as though we were doing them a favor, and we're not. We're serving.
Is this government falling into that same trap?
This government fell into that trap in day one. Oh. They went in within a month. They raised their own salaries. They didn't bother to fulfill any of the things.
You got to raise the
pay
pay as well.
I think it was $20,000. Let's be very clear about that.
Yeah, but then it's all banked up, and then it's been put out there that the government gave everybody this big raise of pay when it was.
And that was the myth. But the point I'm making is the cabinet ministers went in there and raised their salaries. They never told people they would do that.
Let me ask you this: the PPP stated that they will take the extra funds and put it in an account. I remember clearly because they don't want it. That account I've calculated should have over $1 billion by now.
Not at all.
I can do your calculation for your increase and all of that.
$1 billion, you mad? No.
It's 4 years now.
Yeah,
Ms.
but it wasn't. You see, that's the
we all use the account money for do. Or it hasn't been there.
I don't think it's been used as yet. My salary.
Is there a possibility that
I could tell you what my parliamentary salary is, so that you understand. My take home from parliament, my parliamentary salary, I think is $206,000 or something. So it's very different when you say, well, you all got increases. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is they did not tell people. In fact, the opposite is true. If you look at a record, you'll see there was a leak that there was a raise of pay. People outright deny that. We don't know where that's coming from. There was no raise of pay. This is malicious and wicked. If you look back at the newspapers, and 2 months later, we realized there was something in the Gazette, again, seen by a normal citizen that raised it, that their raise of pay had been retroactive from the time that it was first leaked. So those kinds of duplicitous things, saying on the campaign trail no estate will be closed, and then closing sugar estates to cost
that is another whole
7,000 persons.
Not a whole long discussion, because operations were closed previously. You weren't in government that time.
No, but people weren't out of jobs. There's a difference. Even when operations
we're not
going to
talk about Burma and other places, are we? I know my history. I researched a bit about what happened in our country. I understand a little. I'm not claiming to have all the answers or anything. I just ask questions. I don't have answers.
No, and it's that is how we will arrive at solutions, I believe.
Most definitely.
But we have to be, even in examining what happened, we have to look at, I would recommend to your listeners, your rush hour listeners, on this Maad 97.5 station.
You remember?
Yes. Well, your music that you're playing would be music my husband likes, so I suspect this is going to be one of the channels we listen to in our own vehicles. But yes, the people, you have to look at the whole picture of everything. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't close a sugar estate if you feel strongly that it is not producing. But you can't close a sugar estate, completely disregard all the jobs these people, let's forget the word jobs.
Some persons were rehired, there was severance, and there were other workers in Guyana who were dismissed.
Malcolm, we had to fight for the severance. The people had to take them to court to get their severance. They got severance last year in November.
In terms of the timings when it was being paid?
Severance is supposed to be paid immediately. They got severance after they took them to court last year.
None of it wasn't going to be given.
So that's the first thing. And then they got piece of the severance, and they were going to get a piece later on.
They have all by now.
They have all. They
have all by now.
Not everybody. The Wales people, I don't think have gotten theirs as yet.
We got to wrap up. I'm going to invite you again so we could actually talk about
please
sugar.
Do.
But before we go, I asked you this before.
Well, let's not call it sugar. Let's talk about the lives of the people in those villages.
Fair enough, no problem. That's okay.
Because we get lost in words like jobs, and it doesn't mean anything to anybody. But when you can't put lunch in your child's lunch kit, that's and you have to depend on a charity to give you a book bag with pencils for your children to go to school. There
was a video of you crying in Parliament. And you made some claims that haven't been proven out right.
Right, I never made any claims,
Well, claims were made of police assaulting parliamentarians. That's the claim that was made, right? And I saw a video of parliamentarians assaulting a police officer.
Right.
That's what
First of all, let's go back.
I'm going to ask you, what happened in your view? That's what I'm going to ask.
Right. So in my view, let's remember the police commissioner of the day said very clearly that police had no business being in the parliament. Right? Secondly, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Secretariat, which is something we're very closely affiliated, most parliaments in the Commonwealth would be affiliated with. The president of that called for an inquiry into that. Police should not have been in that parliament. Not for what that was.
Well, MP Waned, should have listened to the speaker and followed the directions, and that caused everything to degenerate.
I would say at this stage,
the standing order state what you do when this happens, and he wasn't following directions.
So
he was out of order.
No,
yes, he was.
So let's pause a second and let me say how I feel about it. I feel that even with the most robust Parliament means to speak, parley, to speak. So you shouldn't have all these rules. There are rules in the standing order. We shouldn't go outside those rules. I have seen when we were in government, people in the opposition say far more robust things than Edgell was saying. When he was asked to leave, perhaps he should have. But I'm saying even if he didn't, there was no need to call the police in there. All right? And the police commissioner has said he doesn't know why the police was there. They had no business being there. So check that back. The parliamentary police who were in the house and are in the house all the time, usually on a regular sitting, they weren't used. They weren't asked to come in and remove people and so on. So That's I think that was one of the most unfortunate things that happened in that
And
parliament.
it goes to show, if we're in school and the teacher say move and they're in charge, you got to move. And as Minister of Education, you
think-
would have supported that.
Yeah, but you
And
don't
if
call the
speaker-
police in. You don't call
But
the
if the
police
speaker
in either.
orders directives to use a member of parliament, you got the whole country and children watching. Then
ironically,
you have to
the-
follow what's being told. The
but-
rules. I'm not
okay.
saying the person may not be
and
thing
then,
to you or whatever.
And then if you don't, there are appropriate punishments.
Yes, and you could be removed from the chamber
There
as well.
are right.
And
So
you
why
refuse.
are you
And then you were
bringing
barricaded.
external police into the house? The speaker himself, the honorable speaker, said he didn't call the police. So
Okay.
it's an interesting thing for us to.
That's
find
the
out who
problem.
did.
You're
called the
focusing
police?
only on who called the police. I'm
No,
focusing
I'm telling
on
you the police should not have been there.
Fair enough. And
The
I'm
police
saying that
should not
MP
have been
disrespected the order in Parliament. He
yeah,
should have get up
but
and move. That's
the-
what's supposed to happen.
The number
He
of
caused
times
all of it to degenerate.
the number of times MPs have said things. That's what I'm saying. It's,
fair
it's
enough.
supposed
Fair enough.
to be
I agree.
robust. It's not
Fair.
supposed to. We're not supposed
It's
to be
not-
agreeing.
No, I understand, right? But do you
Yeah.
believe when in government and MPs from the opposition that said things, they should have been dealt with in this same manner,
No,
even though they weren't?
No, listen.
Do you think that what they
You know
said
what's
it
great
was
about
appropriate?
you know what's great about what we did, what we have in this country, not what we did, what we have. We have something called the Hansards, and I invite you, Malcolm. I'll take you. I'll come with you, and we will check it. Every single question I was asked in the National Assembly, you will not see a grimace from me. You will not see what kind of stupid question is that, because sometimes you had some stupid questions. They were all answered. And if I couldn't, and they were all answered because that is the right of the opposition MP. You have a right to ask questions, to inquire. This is part of the accountability, to inquire how you're spending this money, what are you going to do with it, when you plan to start spending it.
Are there...
And that's what was happening that day.
Final question.
Sure.
Right? We're happy that you didn't get hurt. So, did you get hurt?
It was rough.
It was rough.
It
right?
was rough.
Are we
But
happy that you're okay?
in retrospect, it was not. I think what had happened, because I had a bruise, but it was an elbow. Because when I looked back at the video, that's what it was.
But in the moment, you felt afraid? You felt afraid?
I'd never been in that kind of situation.
But you
before.
formed the barricade.
He's
You,
laughing.
Akeem must laugh. You run for farm the barricade.
No. You got to see how that happened. A crowd is a really strange thing. I was trying to go to the police to say you shouldn't be here, and then it just got very, very
And I'm finally
crowdy very quickly.
Finally, before we go, take a minute. Tell us where you were born, where you were raised.
Born in Georgetown. My mother was a teacher from the time she was 16. She retired a head teacher, and then she worked in the Ministry of Education a couple of years until 2016, I believe, or 2015.
She did help me one time at the Ministry of Education.
You know, it's funny that you say that.
Yeah,
Up to today, somebody was telling me, and everywhere
She's
I
riding
go,
with Miss Luke. Yes.
everywhere I go, people tell me how my mother helped them, and that for me is real service. It's not being in papers or being on Malcolm's show. It's really making a difference in the lives of people.
I should have bring some of the money out to that country. I'm going to charge you for today. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, my father's from Iconi. He is a rice farmer, cattle rearer. He does some logging. And we grew up in Georgetown so that we could get schooling. My parents made a big sacrifice. They decided to live separately, not divorced, not separated. They were a couple, but because they felt schooling in town would be best for us. My mother stayed in town, continued to work, and my father went there so he could make money and make us comfortable, I suppose. And they brought us up like that. I have a brother and a sister. I now have 2 children, and I have 2 nieces.
Close shop? You close up?
Yes.
You
done.
sure?
I'd like 12, but my body enable it 12.
So what do you do on a daily basis? Parliament is not, you're
I
in court.
practice law. I get to see how it works from the other side. We started up the family court. That was one of my babies. The sex offenses court was another thing that came out of the Sex Offences Act. And I get to see how that works. And it's a daily pleasure to see how it makes a difference in the lives of the people who go there. It doesn't work the family court Could do with some improvements administratively, and I've voiced my concern about some of those, but it's so very, very improved from when I was practicing in 2006. In 2006, a divorce could take you as long as 2 years. A custody matter could take 3, 4, 5. Children grow out of being minority. They turn 18 and their matter is not heard. Division of property would take sometimes years. That's not happening anymore. Things are finishing within a couple of months, and it doesn't sound like a big thing for you, but somebody going through that kind of split in their marriage, they just want to put it behind them.
Are you a dual citizen?
Dual citizen? No, I'm Guyanese.
You don't have any residency status anywhere?
No residency, no green card, no red card, no pink card, nothing. I consider, I went to school in Trinidad, as you know, so that's like a second home, and I have some really, really good friends in Grenada that I call my second home also, but no.
You don't give it dear, but nothing.
Guyanese
never took a note anywhere else. Only
kids
in
born
Parliament.
here, husband born here.
Oh, you didn't fly go give
No.
birth overseas?
No, I didn't.
Oh, all right. Thanks very much, Miss Priya Manikjan. Let me pronounce it properly, for passing on the program.
Yeah.
And all the best as you go forward. It's
Well,
great seeing you.
Thank you very much for having us.
But you
a
look
different
beautiful
view.
as usual.
Oh, thanks, Malcolm. And thank you for your service that you gave up to the citizens of Georgetown.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll listen to your program now.
All right, then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let me be myself.